Okay, welcome to session 14, part D. I'm going to continue um, with the example that the book discusses from table 10.1. Reproduce the table here. And now I'm going to discuss what I'm going to call strategy 5. Okay, 5. In this strategy, the government says to each company for each unit of yuck you emit will tax you $2.01. Okay. So what happens if the government has adopted this policy? A says it's cheaper to reduce yuck to 0. So we're not emitting any yuck at all. Here's the reason. So it's currently producing 15,000 units of yuck. Now all of a sudden the government is going to tax those units. 15,000 times $2.01, and that is a little bit more than $30,000. Company A could say, well, look, instead of, we don't have to pay that tax if we just reduce our yuck. It only costs $1 per unit to do that. So for 15,000, we could reduce our yuck to 0. That's much cheaper than the 30,000. So we'll reduce our yuck to 0. And then B says the exact same thing. B says we could continue producing $30,000 if we did 30,000 units of yuck. If we did that, we would be taxed a little bit more than $60,000. But notice we picked that amount, so it's just slightly more than the amount that would cost to reduce that yuck. They would say, well, we can reduce that yuck for exactly $60,000, or we could pay slightly more than $60,000 in tax. It's better just to reduce the yuck. So let's reduce it to 0. So here, this tax turns out, remember, our goal for the other 4 strategies was to reduce the yuck by 45,000 units. This tax does exactly that. Total reduction in yuck equals, it's going to be 45,000. Okay, what will happen? A pays 15,000 in costs to reduce the yuck. B pays 60,000, so 30,000 units times 2, 60,000 in costs. Okay. C does not reduce at all. C instead pays a tax. C pays a tax of slightly more than $2.01 times 45,000 than $90,000. Okay. 90. Okay. This is exactly. Okay. So notice that this tax ended up giving, in terms of who reduces yuck, in terms of who emits it, this strategy, strategy 5, is exactly the same as strategy 4. We get company A and B reducing their yuck to nothing. We get C not reducing at all. Okay, although it would be different payments. Okay, but it's the exact same outcome in terms of which companies are emitting how much yuck. Okay, and notice this got to efficiency. We said strategy 4 was the efficient way. This was the lowest cost. Strategy 5 is also the efficient way. Um, this is kind of a general result of instead of doing command and control, if you instead impose a tax. Now, in this example, we chose that 201, so it's just enough to get us to reduce 45,000. In actual practice, often the government doesn't know the costs that these companies face. So what it might have to do is experiment with these different taxes. It might start off with a $1.50 tax, realize, oh, that only reduced the yuck by 15,000. Let's try it at $1.75. Doesn't do anything else. You keep on raising it until you finally get to 201. You realize, oh, that's just enough to reduce the yuck 45,000. So the government might have to experiment with the exact tax rate that gets the amount you want. But once you do that, it turns out the companies will adjust in a way that you get the most efficient outcome. You reduce the yuck in the most efficient way. And often it will be more efficient than the command and control ways. Okay, now strategy 4 was a tie. That was the same efficiency, the same total cost uh, uh, that the companies would pay in the reduction as 4. But we just happened to get lucky on this. Strategies 1, 2, and 3 did not work as well. Okay, and that's kind of a general result that command and control is not as efficient as the tax rate. Okay. Next, okay, that was strategy 5. Okay, next I'm going to try strategy 6. Turns out strategy 6 is not in the book, but I want to show you. Strategy 6 uses strategy 6 uses subsidies instead. 6. 5 use taxes. 6 is going to use a subsidy. Government says to each company, for each unit of yuck that you reduce, will pay you $2.01. Okay. So, what happens? A says, well, okay, look, we're currently emitting 15,000 units of yuck. For each one we reduce, it only costs us $1 for each unit, and we get 201. So we get a profit of $1.01 for each unit that we reduce. We want to do this as much as we can. A will reduce yuck to 0. Will get paid $2.01 times 15,000, slightly more than 15,000. No, yeah, 30,000. More than 30,000. B, what will B do? B says, well, if we get paid $2.01 for each unit of yuck that we reduce, it only costs us $2 to reduce it. So for each unit, we will get paid a profit of a penny in this. So B, and that works for each unit. So they'll want to do it for as many units as they can. They'll reduce all 30,000 to zero. B will reduce yuck to zero, and it will get paid slightly more than it's 30,000 times $2.01. Slightly more than 60,000. Finally, C will say, look, if we get paid, we're offered a subsidy for $2.01 for each unit of yuck that we reduce, but it costs us $3 for each unit we reduce. It's not worth it. Okay, we'll get paid $2.01, but it costs us $3 for each unit of yuck we reduce. It will cost us. We'll get a loss of 99 cents. So C reduces not at all. Okay, so we get in terms of who reduces what, in terms of which companies reduce and yuck and how much. It's exactly the same as strategy 5 and strategy 4. A reduces completely, so does B. Okay, so that's just a quick showing that a subsidy often will give a very similar result as a tax if you pick at least if you pick the subsidy right. Okay, that was 6. Okay, and now do strategy 7. Okay. You know what? I think I'm going to switch. So this was part D. Strategy 7 is going to take a little bit of time, so I am going to stop this video. This was part D. I will see you in part E.